A few based on a true story dramas with some big names attached, a couple of brand new comedy shows, and as well, a drama based on a bestseller starring Toni Collette. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It, and welcome to TV news and reviews for the week, playing a little bit of catch up. I've been so focused on getting my movies in before the Oscars that we've definitely fallen a little bit behind on TV. So some of these you may have been watching already, but we're going to talk about Joe versus Carole, the old Tiger King turned into a drama series. Super Pumped, The Rise of Uber, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The Dropout, starring Amanda Seyfried. Pieces of Her, starring Toni Collette. Mentioned that one. And then a couple of new comedy shows as well. Our Flag Means Death and Weekend Family. But before we get to that, of course, we have to do the TV news portion. But before we even get to that, I just want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. I wrap up the TV news and reviews every single week. We tackle the week's new programs. And usually there's, 5 or 6 in the mix. So I try to hit a lot of the new shows out there, and then the news as well every single week, what's going on in the land of television. So please do think about subscribing to my channel if you are not one of my subs. But let's get right into this. So we start with renewals and cancellations like usual. So a few things I am quite happy about on the renewal front. Acapulco is getting a season 2 at Apple TV+. I really, really enjoyed this show, which is funny because I hated the movie that it was based on, How to Be a Latin Lover. But Eugenio Derbez takes his character from that film and turns it into sort of he's like the storyteller in this, and we flash back to the 80s for the actual, story portion. Really, really well done show on Apple, so I'm happy that's getting a season 2. Judy Justice is returning for season 2 on IMDb TV. Now, that is a free service, so nobody is paying to watch Judge Judy. It's not a paid streamer, but you do get ads in there like you would watch Judge Judy on your television. But they did release a few tidbits of information about the watch time. So, so far in season 1, and I say so far because it's still got about 3 weeks of new episodes left, but every weekday they've been doing this now for months. And it's 25 million hours streamed for season 1. Now that translates to 1.5 billion minutes. And the reason I say that is because Netflix sort of releases their stats in billions of minutes viewed, and Ozark and Tiger King have both hit over 4 billion views in 1 week at some point. So maybe 1.5 billion minutes doesn't seem that huge for a 4 or 5 month window, but you know what, obviously this was sort of a test run for them. The biggest name, I think, that they've gotten on IMDb TV. So anyway, they have decided that is good enough to give Judy a season 2. CBS has renewed most of their reality slate. Survivor for season 44, Amazing Race for cycle number 34, Tough as Nails, and Secret Celebrity Renovation, all renewed for the 2022-2023 TV season. Tough as Nails will be, I think, the 5th season, but the 4th season will be on this summer or something like that. Whatever it is, there's a whole new season of Tough as Nails on this summer that does not count for this renewal. So technically we have 2 more seasons of that to go. And then Power Book 4, Force, has been renewed for season 2 on Starz. We did an article about this a couple of weeks ago about 50 Cent being very angry with Starz for renewing a couple of their other shows, but not Power Book 4, which was, the highest rated premiere in Starz history. But look, it was a newer show. It had only been on a few weeks by that point. So now they've said, yes, obviously we're renewing this. Everybody calm down. You can get season 2 of this eventually. So, all right. And then a couple of shows ending that I rather enjoyed. The Big Leap is done at Fox after just 1 season. I didn't love this show, but I thought it was pretty charming. And at some point I may finish the 1st season. I get so far behind, but you never know. And then one that I really, really enjoy, Never Have I Ever. Mindy Kaling announced that has been renewed for a 4th and final. And season 3 is going to debut this summer for that show. I did not watch season 2 yet, but I watched season 1. It ended up in my top 20 of the year. I can't even remember what year it came out. 2019 maybe? Either 2019 or 2020. But anyway, one of my top shows. whatever year that was on. I love, Mindy Kaling projects I will always check out. So happy to see at least that has a definitive conclusion. I'm glad Netflix is doing that, because I have long, been angry at the sort of just cutting a show off when there's a cliffhanger. Santa Clarita Diet is one of my big examples, and Glow, of course, is another one. That would have gotten another season and was renewed for another season, but then COVID sort of put the brakes on that, so we get a cliffhanger with that too. I'm still crossing my fingers sort of for like a reunion movie or something with Glow, so we can wrap up some story ends. But, all right, speaking of wrestling, let's move into some other news and the WWE. So this sports giant has teamed with A&E to sign a multi-year expansion of their programming, a partnership that's already in existence. The new deal covers, listen to this, more than 130 hours of programming that will run on the various A&E platforms. Among that programming is 35 new episodes of A&E's biography series focused on WWE legends. I wasn't even sure that A&E biography was still in production, but obviously it is, and they're going to do 35 different episodes of A&E biography about WWE wrestlers, or, businessmen. I'm sure Vince McMahon will get his own or whatever. All right, and I guess they've already produced a few of these, and it has helped the A&E biography show be their most popular show in 2021. That makes sense, because Better Call Saul was on hiatus that whole year, and a couple of their other bigger name shows. But I think isn't Better Call Saul A&E? I think it is. And then in addition, A&E has ordered 40 hours of a new documentary series called WWE Rivals, which will chronicle the little-known stories behind the biggest clashes in WWE history. And then they've also ordered 24 more episodes of the unscripted series WWE Most Wanted Treasures, which debuted last year, and they've got some other programming as well in development. So I am not a WWE fan, but I have a lot of friends and family that still, to this day, watch Raw, and they follow, the storylines and all of that. So exciting news to some, I'm sure. Raw currently airs, by the way, on USA, and SmackDown airs on Fox. So neither of those actually air on A&E. All right, so in casting news, we've got Sarah Hyland and Jamila Jamil joining the Pitch Perfect show. I announced this in Reboots months ago. Peacock is going to have that. It was picked up straight to series in the fall, and it's going to be set several years after the movies. And sees the bumper character, which is, what's his name, Adam Devine, who, interestingly enough, was, boyfriends with Sarah Hyland on Modern Family for several seasons. But he's going to move to Germany, his character is, to revive his music career after one of his songs becomes big in Berlin. And Flula Borg from the at least third movie, he might have been in the second one as well, is reprising his role as well and becomes Bumper's agent. You've also got some Grownish news. Marcus Scribner, who plays Junior on Blackish, moves over to Grownish for season 5, as does Blackish's showrunner, because that show, of course, is in its final season, so they're looking for other opportunities for those people. We've got a lot of Sam Esmail projects in the works. So he created Mr. Robot, very popular, but of course that show wrapped up a couple of years ago. So on Peacock, he's got The Resort, starring William Jackson Harper and Kristen Milioti. Harper is, of course, Chidi from Good Place, and Kristen Milioti, many shows, but you may know her as the mother from the last season of How I Met Your Mother. She was also in Palm Springs. So they're going to star in this show called The Resort, and it's described as a comedic thriller that explores love, marriage, and family vacations set against the backdrop of one of the Mayan Riviera's bizarre unsolved mysteries. And let's see, Debbie Ryan, Becky Ann Baker, and Dylan Baker, no relation there, will also recur. And then Sam Esmail is going to produce that. Apple TV then brings Metropolis, based on the 1927 Fritz Lang film, to be a series. Now, Sam Esmail will write and direct every episode of that. Details on what the show will be is kind of under wraps, but the movie depicted a dystopian futuristic world ruled by a wealthy elite while the workers toil underground. So in this day and age, I'm sure there's a lot you can do with that if you want to even set it in the present day. Esmail is also an executive producer currently of Star's forthcoming Gaslit program and Peacock's Angeline, which is based on a true life 2017 story. And then he's also developing a Battlestar Galactica reboot for Peacock and has an alt history drama called The American Throne coming up as well. And then he's got a movie in the works too. He's writing and directing this movie called Leave the World Behind for Netflix, which stars Julia Roberts, Mahershala Ali, and Ethan Hawke. So lots of stuff going on in his world. If you're a fan of Mr. Robot, maybe some of these projects will be up your alley. A lot of odds and ends to talk about, too. So let's talk about some of that. Disney Plus has handed out a series order to The Muppets Mayhem. They keep trying new Muppets programs on Disney Plus and ABC, and I'm here for it. I love the Muppets. So we'll see. This one does sound interesting. Lily Singh, recent talk show host, is set to star, and it's going to follow the Electric Mayhem Band as it records its first ever album 45 years after they first hit on The Muppet Show in the 70s. So Lily Singh will star as the human lead, playing the junior A&R executive who is tasked with managing the band. And it's going to be a 10-episode series that starts filming in April. Giancarlo Esposito has booked his first Better Call Saul, after show, because that is wrapping up, of course, this season. I love him, on that Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad universe, but he's going to be on The Driver for AMC. This is a 6-episode season 1 for this show, and it follows a cabbie whose life is turned upside down when he agrees to chauffeur a New Orleans-based gangster notorious for exploiting undocumented immigrants at ports in the southern U.S. So he's going to play the cabbie in that show. NBC announces this Survivor-esque program called $1 Million Island. Listen to this. So while Survivor typically has 16 to 20 contestants, $1 Million Island has 100 contestants. And while the CBS show Survivor usually spans 39 days, this will span 50 days. The prize, however, is the same, $1 million. And upon arrival, each contestant is given a bracelet worth 10 grand. So that's how they get to the million. During their time on the island, contestants gain and lose bracelets through various challenges. But when a player leaves the island entirely, they must choose who will receive their portion of the money. So should be very interesting. I used to love Survivor. I watched the first, maybe 10 cycles of it and then got kind of out of it. But I know people that still love it, so maybe that will be up their alley as well. And then finally, before we get to the reviews, one thing to note in reboots and spinoffs, HBO Max, you may have heard about this already, has committed to a straight-to-series order for a limited series for the Penguin from the new Batman movie that is a huge hit in theaters. Colin Farrell will reprise his role here as the underworld kingpin, Oswald Cobblepot, as he rises up the darkened ranks to become what we know as the Penguin. And then there was another show, actually, that was going to be based on the Gotham police force from Batman Helmer Matt Reeves, but he said that was no longer moving forward, and instead that sort of morphed into a different story set in Arkham Asylum. So a lot of Batman things coming. If you saw the movie, you know what an incredible job Colin Farrell did. You may love or hate the movie, but I think it's undeniable that Farrell was completely unrecognizable in the role, and certainly one of the highlights of that film. Whether you liked it or not, I think we can all agree he did an amazing job as Cobblepot. So should be great to have that on as a weekly series. All right, so let's get into the reviews. 6 shows this week, and we're going to start out actually with the 3 based on a true story dramas. And, they also, I think, happen to be sort of the highest profile ones of the shows we're doing. But, yeah, they do sort of have that thread going for them. And we're going to start with Joe versus Carole. Now, this is listed as a drama series, but I have questions, which you'll hear about in my review here, if straight drama is what they're going for here, because I'm not completely getting that sense, even though that's how it is listed. So basically, this follows, what we know as the Tiger King saga with Joe Exotic and Carole Baskin, and, the whole murder for hire plot. John Cameron Mitchell plays Joe Exotic. We've seen him in a few different things. He just kind of pops up. I don't know if there's anything like major, but he, I don't know. He's done so many, like, random things here or there. I'm trying to find, like, he was in 5 episodes of Girls, 4 episodes of The Good Fight. That's where I know him best. He was a regular on Shrill. So, you know, he's done a lot of different things. And then Kate McKinnon is playing the old Carole Baskin character, and Kyle MacLachlan playing Howard Baskin. So, look, I have many thoughts on this, and most of them are not positive. So let me give you a couple of positives, I guess. I suppose if you don't know about Tiger King and you didn't watch Tiger King, but maybe you like Kate McKinnon from SNL or something, I think maybe you'll get more out of this than anyone else on the planet. Because it's not necessarily bad, but when compared to what is actually insane, which is the documentary of Tiger King, there's no reason for this to exist. There's no reason to take that show and these real people and make a sillier version of it, because they are going for comedy in some aspects. I know it's listed as a drama, but like in one scene in the first episode, Carole Baskin is sort of, you know, attempting to make this video to spread the word about, you know, hey, don't hurt the big cats, and we need to band together to stop this Joe Exotic and his zoo and all of this. And there's like a 2-minute scene where she's coming up with different intros that she doesn't like, and then finally she stumbles on, hey, all you cool cats and kittens. First of all, anybody that knows Tiger King or knows Carole Baskin knows that that's where that's going. So the joke loses all steam, and it's just kind of annoying. It comes off as an unpolished SNL sketch, actually. And by the way, SNL has a person that does a Carole Baskin impression, Chloe Fineman, who does a great job, more so than Kate McKinnon. So this show has so many problems, but I think the biggest one is really there's no need to dramatize this. The real thing is so insane. And that's why at the start of the pandemic, we were all kind of riveted to it. And I admit that a lot of that was sort of the lockdown. It came out. I mean, the timing could not have been more perfect for any TV show possibly ever than Tiger King, because more people were home than had been in decades, probably, you know, looking for something to do, some new show to watch, and Tiger King fit that bill. So it was so crazy. Why do we need to dramatize it? Number one. Number two, this is way too late. I mean, they've now had Tiger King 2, which was, you know, kind of a bomb. I guess some people watched it, but I look at the Netflix top 10 several times a week, and it was up there for a few days. I'm not even sure if it ever hit number 1. Whereas Tiger King, the original, was up there for well over a month in the top 10 and in the top, you know, 2 or 3 for over a month. So the timing on this is poor. No one cares anymore about Tiger King or its, you know, characters. Number 2, the real thing is insane enough. Why are we dramatizing it? And number 3, I just don't buy any of this. I don't know what they're going for. Is it comedy? Is it drama? You know, the impressions of the people are not that good. Kyle MacLachlan actually does, you know, a good job here. But in any event, this show is meaningless. It doesn't need to exist. And yeah, I give Joe versus Carole a D. Very, very poor. Up next is Super Pumped. This is an anthology drama television series. There is a second season in the works about Facebook, but this first season is all about Uber. And so the premise here of this first season is really about the creation of Uber. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Travis Kalanick, and coming up with the idea, going from that to, you know, hemorrhaging money with the company, and, you know, eventually, I guess, as we go, we'll get to, you know, the huge success that we know Uber is today. I think there's 2 episodes left of this to air. It's on Showtime. But Kyle Chandler's here as well. We love him. Elizabeth Shue, Hank Azaria, Uma Thurman. They have not shown up yet. I'm 2 episodes, or wait, have I seen 2 episodes or 1? I forget. I think maybe I just saw the first episode of this. But yeah, I did not see Hank Azaria or Uma Thurman yet. I did see Elizabeth Shue. And then the first season is narrated by Quentin Tarantino, which I think is one of the biggest detriments to the program. I love Tarantino as a director, but his voice is very grating, and he's just not, I don't know, he's not a good actor, he's not a good narrator. Stick to the directing and the writing, and you've sold me, Quentin, but narrating, no. So that's definitely one of the weaker points here. But I have a couple of flaws with this, but I did enjoy watching this. But my biggest flaw, I guess, would be that I'm not sure that we need a show like this now, where we're supposed to sort of be glorifying this kind of awful person. You know, it's no, I mean, I drove Uber for years. It's no secret that, you know, they screw over their drivers. They don't really care about the safety of the passengers, X, Y, and Z. And we see shades of that right in the first scene, because we sort of are in not quite present day, but more present day. And then we go back to the creation of the idea and all of that. So I don't know, at this point in time, when so many people are struggling, and especially with gas prices skyrocketing. Now, of course, they, you know, made this before the whole gas thing, but still, you know, they don't really pay their drivers very well. They don't pay them anything for gas reimbursement. That's all on us as drivers. So, you know, I have some issues personally with Uber, but I think their head is kind of a jerk off. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is probably a good person to play that, if they want to play that sympathy angle, because he is a likable guy. We all love JGL, right? But, you know, he's playing just this jerk of a character, but we are supposed to love him, and we are supposed to relate to him and sympathize with him. I'm not sure that ever comes across. And especially like the second season they're going to do with Facebook. Well, there's already the Social Network movie, which was played pretty much to perfection by Jesse Eisenberg. So I don't know what they're going to do with that. But there's another guy who, it's like, if they're expecting us to sympathize with him and he's like the hero of the story, I'm just not sure how that's going to fly. You know, I find that sort of the anti-hero thing is better when we don't know the person, when they're like a fake person, like a Walter White or a Tony Soprano, something like that. But this jerk-off that created Uber, like, all right, well, he sucks, but we're supposed to get behind him, or that's what I feel like they want us to do. I didn't quite get behind him in that way, but look, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is almost always riveting to watch, and he is that way here. The script is great. It's, you know, a bit Sorkin-esque. You know, you've got a lot of sort of quick talking and moments of, and it also actually reminds me of Adam McKay with his directing, which I don't usually care for his directing style, but especially with the Tarantino narration, there'll be like, you know, things coming up on the screen, and, you know, big pink, you know, or neon green words, you know, on the screen to what they're saying, or, you know, here's this chapter or whatever. It's, you know, it's been kind of done, but whatever. I could take or leave that. But Joseph Gordon-Levitt, very riveting. Kyle Chandler, I have to say, I'm a huge fan of his from Friday Night Lights. I know he did stuff even before that with Early Edition and stuff. I didn't watch it. But, you know, look, Coach Taylor is one of my all-time favorite TV characters. But he's sort of found this niche of that sort of, I don't know, smarmy, heroic kind of guy. Here he's sort of the money man of the Uber operation, and he's always sort of got an answer for everything and a quick wit, and you know, sort of maybe a little shady, but we like him. He played the same kind of character in like Wolf on Wall Street and Zero Dark 30, and so he's not really adding anything to the mix, even though I do like him. But the reason to watch this really is Joseph Gordon-Levitt and a really crackling script, to be honest. So overall, I did enjoy it, but I wonder, is this the right time for this show? And is it really good that they're trying to get us to sympathize with this, you know, billionaire tech guy who does not treat his business associates very well? I'm not sure. So I'm going to leave super pumped with a B-. Up next is The Dropout. This is, again, based on another true story. Elizabeth Holmes, the biotech entrepreneur who, you know, had some legal issues. And she is played by Amanda Seyfried. We love her. And then Naveen Andrews, a Lost alum. Oh, my gosh. You know, one of my favorite people from Lost. Good old Saeed. He is back. And he plays Sonny. Balwani, who was Holmes' I guess boyfriend or something, at least in the first episode. They get together. I don't know where that character goes for good, but he's the only one listed as a main character along with Seyfried. So, but a lot of people recurring in this. William H. Macy is in the first episode. Laurie Metcalf, Uktash Mukhtar from Ghosts is in the first episode. I don't know how many they're in, but they all kind of show up here, and a lot of people in this show. In episodes that I have not seen yet, but Kurtwood Smith from that 70s show, Michaela Watkins from SNL, Sam Waterston from Law & Order. So a lot of people, big names in this. And this is the first episode, anyway, directed by Michael Showalter, who is really, I mean, he has made a great name for himself doing a lot of these sort of quirky, dramedy type things. He directed The Big Sick. He wrote and co-created the show Search Party, which is very popular. So we like him, and he directed over half of these 8 episodes for The Dropout. So this is still currently airing. So there's, I think, 3 more episodes of this to go. But I just watched the first one here, and yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't really know much about the Elizabeth Holmes thing. But she, I know she had a lot of legal issues. I think she went to prison. But this will be an interesting show for me because I don't really know that much about her. I knew the name, and I knew she had something to do with the tech industry. I didn't even know what she did. And in the first episode, we get like some glimpses of her ideas. But look, of all the sort of true crime stuff that's going on, this one seems very authentic. It is based directly from an ABC News podcast, and Elizabeth Merriweather, who sort of, created that podcast, I guess, or at least created this story on the podcast, is one of the executive producers, and she sort of created this version of the story. So it's got a lot of sort of chutzpah behind it. ABC News is actually my go-to news source. So, I personally, I think that adds gravitas to it. But, because of a lot of these big names, and because of the ABC News name as well, it doesn't ever really come off as, entrepreneuristic. That's not really a word, I don't think, but you know what I mean? Like just sort of cashing in on the misery of these other people that I think a lot of the true crime stories sort of tackle it that way. They sort of are preying on, these people who, yes, they've definitely done the wrong thing and they got what was coming to them and X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, and it goes back to sort of the Uber thing, and what I said about sort of the anti-hero. I'm not positive that, a lot of these true crime shows want us to sort of sympathize with the criminal. It's always like, oh, look at this dum-dum and look what they did. But here they are humanizing her. And as we delve more into what she did, I don't really know, so I'm going to find out. But I imagine she did some bad stuff, and that's why we got this show. And actually, we sort of go back and forth from whatever was going on at the time when she was like 19, 20, 21, to the interview with the police, the interrogation room, and all of that sort of stuff. So we're sort of going back and forth between the two. So if you don't know the story at all, I mean, I had minimal knowledge, but I at least knew she went to jail. But if you don't know the story at all, you find out in that first episode, okay, well, at least we know something is going to go down here because she's talking to the police in the quote-unquote present day. So, but I think this is a very, very well-done show in the true crime genre. And for all of these, dime a dozen kind of shows, mostly that air on streamers, to be honest. Netflix has a ton of them, but they're so popular. I think this one does kind of rise above almost all of them in the stack, because of some great convincing performances and sort of that ABC News background of not, let's just sort of tell the story and let the audience kind of decide for themselves how they feel about these different people. They are, I think, maybe trying to humanize her a little too much like the Joseph Gordon-Levitt thing, but it worked for me here as well a little bit. So I leave The Dropout with a B+. Next is Pieces of Her. This is over on Netflix, and this is not a real story, but it's based on a popular book from 2018 by Karen Slaughter, and the book is also called Pieces of Her, if you're familiar with it. Toni Collette plays the lead here, but Bella Heathcote is in it as well. And this follows the story of this Bella Heathcote character, Andy, who is like a 911 dispatcher or something, or a police station operator, whatever. She answers phones, essentially. And she is at lunch with her mother when there is a deadly shooting. And the two of them survive, but Toni Collette's character, Laura, the mother, ends up murdering this shooter. So as I watched 2 episodes of this, as the story is unfolding, we find out more about the background of the Toni Collette character and what is going on, and we still don't know. I'm sort of in the dark, as much as I think the Bella Heathcote character is, which is what they want. Here are my big issues with this, and I don't think this is terrible. It's got a very bad rotten on both the critics and the audience. I don't think I'm quite down at that point with them, but it is very average. First of all, the dialogue is pretty weak. Toni Collette, I usually really like, and I like her here too, but it seems like even she's kind of struggling to make sense of what's going on and give us something about this character to like. Okay, she's mysterious, and okay, she's, kind of hard on her daughter, and she's kind of a bitch to her ex-husband, and this and that. But there's a lot more, like, layers, I feel like, that they just have not even started to peel back, and this is only like 8 episodes or something, so by the end of episode 2, you gotta reel me in a little bit more than that. This is one I may actually finish, even though it's a pretty middling grade, just because I am curious about the story, which is always kind of a good sign, so it's like, I can't grade it too low if I'm at least interested in what's going on. But yeah, I mean, she is the only thing that's worth really kind of sticking around for, because she is always so compelling on the screen. I'm not that familiar, honestly, with Bella Heathcote. She's okay, but I know she comes from that soap opera Neighbors that just got canceled after 40 years. But other than that, the only other person I really know in the cast is Terry O'Quinn, another Lost alum. He played John Locke in Lost. But as of yet, he hasn't really been in it much. He wasn't in the first episode at all. The second episode, he appears in flashbacks, but he doesn't have any speaking lines yet. So I'm hoping, as we dive more into the Toni Collette character's background, he will be maybe a part of that, since we're seeing him in flashbacks. But I don't know. I think this show is pulling a lot of different threads, and I'm not sure where any of them are going yet. But I only really care maybe about 1 or 2 of them, of the, 6. So, I don't know. But I am curious to find out where it goes. So, I cannot grade it too harshly. For me, it's more middling. So, I'm going to leave Pieces of Her with a C+. All right. Up next is Our Flag Means Death. This is a comedy series over on HBO Max, and it is from the, it's created by David Jenkins, who did the TBS show People on Earth, that I know is pretty popular. The people that love it. But Taika Waititi and Rhys Darby from Flight of the Conchords are the 2 main stars here. And this is, based on this real-life pirate, I guess, Captain Stede Bonnet, who I don't know really much about, but I did a little bit of digging when I found out that this was sort of based on a real person. And obviously this is, played for laughs, and they're adding a lot of, current vernacular in to this, 1710s show. So obviously they're taking a lot of liberties here, but he is one of the few pirates to possibly actually have people walk the plank. That is sort of, a theory that people have floated around about this guy. But anyway, so he is at least as played by Rhys Darby, he is this, foppish, fey kind of guy who, is not a very good pirate. He's more about the aesthetic and, let's also flags together. And it makes for some good comedy. I like this new style of comedy that people like Taika Waititi and the Flight of the Conchords guys are all sort of putting forth. It's this sort of, it's all kind of, I don't want to say like parody necessarily, because they're not necessarily parodying anything. But it's this kind of self-aware stuff, and look, it's certainly not new, but the Brits seem to be very adept at it, like What We Do in the Shadows, for example, and stuff in that vein. And this was another one. It's very funny. The characters are all kind of silly, and there's a few people here that I do recognize. Rory Kinnear is one of them. He's been in a bunch of different things. He does like a lot of Shakespeare stuff, but he was in No Time to Die most recently. And then Nat Faxon, who is an American actor and currently on The Connors. I've been enjoying him on that as sort of a recurring star. So he's a part of this too. It's a pretty funny show. If you like that sort of kind of, I don't know, sharp-witted British comedy. I don't know how else to really frame it, but yeah, like What We Do in the Shadows, like Flight of the Conchords, like a lot of the stuff. And Taika Waititi, I'm not sure if he has a hand in writing any of these episodes, but I have been enjoying, a lot of his stuff lately. I loved Free Guy and a lot of the stuff that he's been doing. I think he at least directed that first episode. I don't know if he does any of the writing or directing for other things, but very funny show. So I leave Our Flag Means Death with an A-. And then finally, we have Weekend Family over on Disney+. This is a French comedy show. And so it's not necessarily a sitcom in the sense that there's no laugh track, no studio audience like most Disney Channel shows that are aimed at this demo. This is aimed at families, and more specifically, I would say, older children, like in the older single digits, like 8, 9, 10 to the tween years, because there's a lot of kids in this show. And it basically is about this father, Fred, played by Eric Judor, and he is, the father of these, kids who are 9, 12, 15, and he only has custody on them on the weekends. They're 3 girls, but as good as he is to the girls, we sort of peel back the layers as we go on with this show and find out maybe why, he got divorced in the first place. And he's also got this new gal that he wants to introduce to the girls. This one is an interesting one for me because it's not necessarily bad. I think it's completely fine, actually. I'm not sure that I laughed, really, but it's not offensively bad like a lot of the Disney Channel shows that are really for, kids in this age range. And the acting is certainly better. There's none of that like sort of broad performances that we see from especially child actors in the Disney machine. But I'm not exactly sure who of the American Disney Plus audience this is for. Because you could, I guess, watch it in the original French with subtitles, but I don't think that the target audience is going to be able to really, keep up with it that fast to read it. You could put on the dub, which is fine, but again, I think kids might be like, well, why are their lips not matching up at all with, what they're saying? So maybe I'm not giving kids enough credit, I don't know. But it seems odd. It seems like an odd choice to put on just regular Disney Plus. Spanish stuff makes more sense because I think, America has such a high population of Latinos and all of that sort of stuff. But French, I'm not sure. And then the other thing that is a little odd is for a show aimed at this demographic, it's serialized. It's not sort of the regular standalone episodes that you get with most Nickelodeon and Disney Channel shows. So that, I think, is a little bit interesting, too. This is a running thread throughout these episodes, and you do need to kind of watch them in order to follow along. So maybe I'm not giving kids enough credit, I don't know, but this seemed like an odd selection to me. I didn't dislike it. It was fine. The acting and the voice acting is all good. But again, I can't say I really laughed that much either. So I can't give it too high a grade in that regard. But maybe I just don't know French comedy. I mean, maybe, you know, but it is like a light, gentle comedy. They're not like doing pratfalls. It's more like slice of life type of stuff, you know, where it's less about the physical comedy and the setup joke, as it is about, okay, here's these people and their everyday lives. So I don't know how the target demo was going to cotton to it. I thought it was okay. So I'm going to leave Weekend Family with a C. All right, so that is going to do it. The list keeps growing of shows I need to get to. I know there's a lot coming out. Amy Schumer is in a show I just saw that debuted last week. There's a lot of shows still on the docket, so we'll get to them all. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. We'll see everybody next time. Bye.